Trey.
Obviously, you got the scrimmage tomorrow. Took a little bit off them today. I guess a shorter practice. Still, I guess, got after it. But just what are you looking for with your guys in the scrimmage in terms of maybe some depth behind your starters?
I think that's a lot of it. I think a lot of it is depth. In my opinion, we have a lot of talented players, but they're young. Our biggest challenge behind who we have as starters right now, Bumper and Drew, is maturity and being able to understand how important some of this stuff is and being able to focus every single play. So when you talk about the scrimmage this weekend, those 3 freshmen I got, they're going to get thrown into the fire. Well, I guess there's more than 3 now, but Chris Paul's still a freshman. Woodard, I guess Woodard's a sophomore now. And you got Jordan Crook and Manny Powell, and then Hayden Henry's coming along too. Those guys are going to get thrown in the fire on Saturday and see, what they're all about. And if I had to guess from the way practice has gone, we're going to see that those guys are going to help us a lot this year.
Drew and Bumper, you mentioned so much inexperience behind them. What do you use, like, as a motivation, competitive standpoint, like other players in the conference, or like what do you use to push those guys, or do they even need it?
They don't need it. They're very self-motivated, but I just think those guys are they're competing to be the best around. You know what I mean? It's when you become a starter and you have experience like those two, you're no longer necessarily, your focus isn't climbing the top of the depth chart. It's climbing the top of every chart. All right, so there's a lot of that. Both of those have a lot of goals after this year, next year, whatever year it may be, and they're working towards that. And so I think I don't think that's where their brain is. I think their brain's just focused on every day getting better. Especially a guy like Bumper who, let's be honest, he started 1 game last year. Great player. He started 1 game last year. He had worked his butt off all year last year, never complained once. And so he's kind of got that mindset from last year. He showed up every day last year kind of mad at me, and I liked it, and it made him a really good player. So he's kept that, and I don't think that'll never leave him after last year.
Talk about Chris Paul Jr., how much strides he's made from last year to this, because he, as you say, he's a freshman, but he was here last year.
Yes, Chris Paul's ceiling is extremely high, extremely high. He's a very, very, very good football player. Chris Paul, it's all about maturity with him. It's all about maturity and being disciplined, doing things right when you're supposed to do them. And he's gradually getting there. And with him, it's not a mental thing at all. It's a mental toughness thing. It's a play after play. Can I refocus and not worry about what happened the last play? Maybe I did something wrong. Who cares? Doesn't matter anymore. It's the maturity part that when Chris Paul develops that on a consistent basis, he's getting better. And I'll tell you, Hayden Henry, Grant Morgan, and Bumper Poole all they did wonders for that kid last year. They did wonders for him. Chris being able to sit in the back of that room and watch those 3 guys, he might come up here and say, I had something to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. He sat out there and watched what those guys do, and he tried to emulate it. Okay, and now the challenge is, Bumper and Drew are here, but Hayden and Grant aren't here. Can you keep up the pressure you had on you last year to continue to get better?
Is he, he's great when you got him from Duncanville, but is he maybe ahead of where you thought he would be, or about there?
I knew Jordan was a special player in high school, and he's got here and done kind of what I expected and then some. He's extremely bright, football IQ. He takes the game extremely serious. His maturity is beyond his years for sure. And with him, he's going to play a lot of football for us this year. We're going to need Jordan Crook in a lot of different situations, and he's ready for it. But again, with him, it's the maturity. It's breaking bad habits from high school. It's knowing I got to do what I got to do on every single play. And he's such a playmaker that he'll see the ball and go get the ball. And sometimes that's awesome, and sometimes that'll backfire on you. So there's things that we're working with him, but he is He's very far along. He's going to help us out a lot this year. You'll see Jordan Crook a lot this year, no doubt about it.
How nice has it been to get Manny Powell out there this fall, and what have been your early impressions of him?
Oh, Manny is first off, he's an awesome kid. It's hard to not say many good things about Manny because of his background and where he came from, all the stuff he's been through in his life. But and extended to the ACL injury too. But Manny's came back this fall and gotten better every single day, and like exponentially better. You're talking about a kid who's 6'3", 240 pounds, and the nutritionist is telling him he needs more body fat. Okay, yeah, and he likes to eat a lot of candy too. I wish I had that problem. I don't have that problem. So one thing that we all have to sit back and realize is Manny Powell's been through, I guess, 7 practices now, in his college career, and he's had to sit out most of last year. And the strides he's made in 7 practices are, I have a lot of confidence in that he's going to be a really good player. And he's continuing to work to help us out on defense, and he's going to be a heck of a special teams player this year. He's one of the strongest kids I've ever seen in my life.
Even though he wasn't able to go through practice during the spring, how much did being here and being able to be a part of meetings and things like that maybe benefit him?
A lot, a whole lot, because he's sitting there every day listening to everything. And, when you're injured and you're just sitting there, you can kind of get your mind away from things. But we made sure he sat and sit in front of everybody. But if you came in our meeting room, Manny Powell answers every single question I ask, every single one. Okay, and so all spring he was answering every question in the room. Okay, so Manny could sit there and answer them, and at some point when you're injured, you're not practicing, that's all you can do. All right, so everybody sat there every day, and they still do to this day, and listen to Manny answer every single question. And last year that guy was Chris Paul. Okay, well it starts to the more they talk it, the more they understand it, and so Manny, even though he wasn't involved in those 15 practices, between what Jamil was able to do with him in the weight room and what he was able to see in meeting rooms, has helped propel him along for sure.
Sam yesterday wasn't sure how much tackling you might do tomorrow. Have y'all got that settled? And will Bumper be pulled back a little bit, or what will he do?
I'm not exactly sure 100% on the exact rep count yet. We're going to be smart with Bumper for sure. He's an older guy. I know what he can do, right? We know what he can do. So we're going to be smart with him. What that exactly means right now, I don't know. But, like we led off with, I'm really interested in seeing what those young guys are going to do on Saturday. But with that, Bumper and Drew, they got to get better. You know what I mean? We got to progress them. So they're not just going to stay in there. They're going to get everything they need to get, but it'll be a rotational basis, like as you guys have seen all throughout practice. I mean, we're trying to get guys reps.
Yeah, Jackson Woodard last year, when you guys went to twos, Jackson was being there quite a bit. What do you think of his game, and just I guess how feisty he is for a former walk-on?
Yeah, he's progressed a lot, and it's a kid who puts his head down and just goes to work. Doesn't complain. He's made a lot of changes to his body, coming from high school to now. A big challenge we had with him was, I remember on his visit when we first got here, he was 180 pounds. We were looking at Jackson Woodard like, oh man, and then he comes in and he's 230 pounds, probably 5-6 months later. Okay, well, that's awesome because the linebacker is supposed to be 230 pounds, right? But your body's not used to carrying that. Okay, so he had to learn how to carry it, and then he got up to 235 pounds and has learned how to carry it. And me and him had a conversation and said, hey, I think you might be able to move better if you lose a little bit of weight. Get somewhere more natural for you. I want to say he's about 228-ish, in between there and 230 right now, which is a really good weight for him, and he's moving better than he ever has. He's a tough kid, he's a competitive kid, and getting his weight where he needs to be, and his movement skills and everything he's done in the weight room, he's put himself in a position to really, play for us. To really be one of the guys that we count on. In this league, it's going to take a lot of guys, and with the talent we have in our room this year, I think there's multiple different things that multiple different guys can do, and we're going to use everybody to their best ability. And for us, that's going to require a lot of thinking and a lot of pressure on our guys, but they can do it.
Heard from some of the guys that Drew Sanders is an elite pass rusher. I'm curious, just from your perspective, what you've been seeing through 7 practices.
Yeah, he's definitely an elite pass rusher. It's amazing. People don't recognize how hard it is to do what Drew's doing right now. Drew went from playing, 4-eye defensive end, outside linebacker, sitting on the edge every play, to being in the middle of the action. There's a lot going on in there. So your eyes are all in a different place. And to be honest with you, it took Drew about a week and a half till we started watching film. We're like, oh God, this kid's good, right? And so Drew, pass rushing, yeah, he's very good at that. But the reality of the situation is a lot of his plays are going to be off the ball. Okay, so we're working on him getting better at that. And he's progressed every day. He's a very, very, very talented player. A lot of my challenge with Drew is getting him to trust and believe how talented he is. And once he does that and lets it loose, and once he gets the reps there in the middle, and he's not thinking about what he's got to do, he can do some special things.
I guess just looking at, from your perspective, looking at Bumper's game as a whole, is there like an area that you want him to continue to improve on that could, I guess, make him maybe more productive than he's been?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's as a football player, you can never be too fast or have your body in too good a shape. Okay, so you can always progress there, and he has. There's other things in terms of, there's other things in terms of being athletic. Okay, is what I'd say. So learn how to play with your knees bent. Okay, people think athleticism is doing backflips and running around. No, it's can you play with your knees bent, not bend at your back and bend at your knees. It's can you move your hips? Can you pass rush? So just a little tiny details are things that he's still working on to get better, and it's that and making the game easier. There's a lot of ways as a linebacker where you can get to a point where you can line up and it's really okay. Are they going to run or pass? I go this way or that way. Okay. Well, you can do that really fast if you know exactly what you're doing and you're in the right spot. So the more you can be in the right spot, the more it puts yourself in position to make plays, and it puts yourself into a position where if I get blocked or if I take on a blocker, now I'm in a better position to take him on. So there's little tiny details like that me and him work on every day. And that's really, the kid made 125 tackles last year. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. Okay. So going from, say, tackles aren't the all-end-all be-all. You want to go from 125 to 150. Well, it could be this big of a difference. And so for him, it's making sure his body's going to be able to withstand the entire year and be healthy. And it's those little, tiny little details where, he's to the point where he's had all the reps. And so now you can, at some point you come in and the freshmen are doing addition and subtraction. Okay, he's doing like multivariable calculus now. Okay, think of it that way. All right, so if you know what that means.
Michael, do you have any idea what Manny's body fat was down to percentage-wise for him?
I want to say he's somewhere in the 6 or 7% at 240 pounds, which is freakish to say the least.
And then when you said Bumper was mad at you, I mean, were you joking or
no, and no, not at all, not one bit. First off, I have a ton of respect for the kid because of last year. Nowadays they got this deal called the transfer portal, and people like to take the easy way out and find easy things to do. Okay, right? So you don't think something's working out or you're not happy with your situation, right? Well, everybody gave you the exit door now, easy way out. He stayed in my office every single day, never once complained. All he wanted to know is how can I get better? How can I do this? How can I do that? And, he's a competitor, and if you look at our rep count from last year, okay, they're all pretty equal. I think Hayden had about 50 more than Bumper, and Grant may have 50 more than Hayden, something like that. Okay, but they're all equal. We really didn't have, two guys started on the field. We didn't have starters. Okay, so a lot of it went down to him not worrying about when he was going to go on the field and showing up every day to get better, and also him trusting me that, we were going to work together, all three of us in that room, so that everyone was the best they could possibly be. So, yeah, he was mad. I mean, You start for 3 years, and you know they finally understood that it's more of a mental thing than it's a real thing, right? Most of the time you see on the games when they flash up the starters, Bumper Pool is up there. Okay, it's a mental thing, and they realize that after a while. But you want to be a starter, right? You want your video up there, you want your name up there, all that stuff. At the end of the day, does it matter? No. You play 50 snaps, Hayden played 50 snaps, Grant played 53 probably. Okay, but as a competitor, you want to be that guy. Okay, so yeah, he was mad at me, but he never once ever complained, and he never once showed up a day not ready to work like, oh, I'm here, I'm this, I'm that. I've been doing this for how many years? Never, ever, ever. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for that kid for that. And I think the drive he had last year every single day is carried over into this year. And I think it's made him a really, really good football player.
Mad if he never complained.
I'm a smart man. Sometimes I'm smart. Okay. You know, I played football too. Okay, in college, I understand. Okay, I know how people feel. I know how these kids feel. I know what they think, even if they don't tell me. All right. You know, it's obvious, and I also know the competitive drive that everyone has, and you can't be an all SEC player if your competitive drive isn't through the roof. Okay, so to think that he enjoyed any part of that would be crazy to me, but he did it, and it made him a really good football player.
So it was a little bit of motivation, and Hayden was good enough to earn the spot as well.
It's a lot of things. It's how do they work together as a group. It's you know Hayden was an explosive player. Honestly, I think as we went, it's like Hayden was an explosive player, and he started out the game and he would go smack somebody and everybody could get excited. And then I got Bumper sitting right next to me, and he's like a bull in a cage, you know. And he's like, when am I going? When am I going? When am I going? Right. Well, then driving in the game, you release the bull, and now everybody's just rolling in a circle. Okay, so they all were incredible football players and worked so well together, and they've done wonders for the linebacker room at the University of Arkansas. Because, in my opinion, the reason why Jordan Crook and Manny Powell and Hayden Henry wanted to come to Arkansas was because of Bumper Pool, Hayden Henry, and Grant Morgan. Okay, so they saw the way they played and how they did things, and they wanted to be in that position. And so, you know, those guys, they did that for our room, and also they saw everybody that sat in the back of our room saw that those three guys who were seniors, they shared all the work, and it made each one of them better that they did that, and none of them complained one time. Okay, so now, honestly, if you watched our practice, we got five guys going in with the ones right now. Okay, 5 different guys if you've been in our practice. Okay, no one bats an eye, no one complains, no one says, oh, I'm going with the twos this set, you know, nobody. Because they saw the guys do it before. Okay, and if you want to complain about being second string, well, guess what? Bumper Pool is all SEC, all American. Okay, so you got to go somewhere down the road with that conversation.
He also came back to play for you for a bonus year.
Yeah.
Must like you okay. Change the subject a little bit. I guess this was your first time out on the road recruiting in the evaluation period. How'd that go, and what kind of territories are you assigned?
I spend most of my time in the state of Missouri and then North Dallas. So, you know, we got a good crop of linebackers out of Dallas, out of Texas, still kind of going. And, you know, I spend a lot of time North Dallas area and then all of Missouri. You know, I'm from St. Louis, spent a lot of time in Columbia, have a good amount of friends in Kansas City. So you kind of sweep your way across the state, come back down our way.
I know you can't comment specifically on players, but you signed 3 in the last class, got 3 committed for this class. Is that kind of like about a number you would like to bring in every class out of the high school ranks?
It just depends. Probably. But at some point then, you know, as the years, as we build our room and as the years go on, you know, you have to have the correct number for the amount you use, you know. So I'd like to say it's always going to be 3, but if for whatever reason I walk into the room and next year we have 12 guys that aren't leaving, maybe we cut that number down. I don't know. We just kind of roll with it. And, you know, nowadays the way the transfer portal is, you never know. As I say, you never know. Anything can happen. So 3's been it. 3 is kind of what we aim for, but you kind of also have to look at the roster.
I always thought a linebacker's kind of born a linebacker with a certain mentality. You can't just like make somebody that. What do you look for when you're evaluating these guys? What are some of the properties you're looking for in a person to come and play for you?
At first, I think you have to be a good person because that takes you a long way. You can be as good as you want. You're a bad person. I think eventually you get shooed to the side or you're going to rule yourself out one way or another. So I guess you got to find good people. And then, tough kids. Tough kids. Find good people that are tough. Obviously you want them to run, you want to be big. But if you can find good people that are tough, you can mold them and teach them the things you want. And hopefully kind of mold them into being a really good football player. Obviously you want to be able to run fast too. But I think the mental part of it at the linebacker level is probably the biggest part.
You mentioned with Drew Sanders that one of your biggest challenges is kind of getting him to buy into how talented he really is. How do you as a coach go about that, especially with a guy that's newer to the program?
It's easy to get frustrated, especially as a linebacker. It's easy to get frustrated when you don't make every single play. Sounds crazy, okay? But when you don't make every single play, when you do something wrong and you know it, they're smart kids, right? So when they do something wrong, they know it. And it's easy to get down on yourself and think about that, right? So the challenge I've had to many of the guys, and a lot of that's in the maturity of the young guys too, is you can't let one mistake turn into two, right? So a lot of guys, the young guys, they screw up and then they go and they line up and they're still thinking about the mistake they just made. Well, then one mistake turns into two, two turns into three, and then all of a sudden they're having an awful day, okay? And they're all out of whack mentally. With Drew, a lot of it is just, getting him to trust that the things he needs to do fundamentally as a linebacker will take care of themselves, meaning he'll make plays just by doing what he has to do. And it's getting him to not be frustrated that maybe the ball doesn't come to him every time. And so that he stays disciplined in doing what he's supposed to do. Because in our defense as a linebacker, if you do what you're supposed to do, history says you're going to be pretty successful. So it's just trying to get him to understand that and not get frustrated when one thing goes wrong. He's learning. So as anybody's learning, you're going to make mistakes. And I think the only way to learn in football is to make mistakes. And I think that's why I'm a football coach, because I screwed up so many times and I had to learn how to fix it. And so I'm being honest. So I had to fix all the mistakes I made in my life. And so now I know how to fix mistakes kind of. And I think that's, why I'm okay at this job. So just getting Drew to understand that mistakes are going to happen and just keep on moving on, keep on going.
With Drew, I think you said it was about 7 practices where you realized, okay, this guy's really good. Was there ever like a particular play or anything that you were like, okay, wow, this guy's really good?
I mean, no, not really. I mean, you see it every day. He is who he is every day. And it's easy to see that once the pieces are put together, what the finished product's going to look like. And I think a lot of it came out in that spring game. In the spring game, he was making a lot of plays, just being himself. So I think it came out there. But he does it every day. It's just getting him to trust that incrementally, getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better is at the end going to be what makes him very, very good.
Last year between Grant, Hayden, and Bump, I think they played about 90% of your snaps. Do you envision a 3-man rotation usually, or could that be expanded to, you said 5 guys earlier?
Yeah, it can change based on who's in the game and what's going on. But we'll see. We'll see. I think we got a good amount of guys that can go and play in a game right now. I think Bumper and Drew can take a large load. But to last a 12-game season in the SEC, they're going to need to go in and out. And so I can't tell you if it's going to be 3 guys right now. I think we got more than that, to be honest with you. So I do think it'll be a little bit different. How exactly it's going to look, I don't know.
Looks like Hayden Henley's camp's going, and I guess he was a 4-year starter. think he had close to 500 career tackles. I know it's high school versus the SEC, but how does that kind of production and experience, all those games, 50 games, translate right now, and kind of how's he done in camp?
Caden's actually done a really good job. Caden was here in the spring, which helped him out a lot also. He got 15 practices in the spring. But he's coming along a lot. Caden's a very smart kid, and so the challenge with him is he knows what he's doing, and now it's getting him to do it fast and not think about it. When you're smart, you start to think a lot. So it's getting him to play fast and not think. Now, with that, he's come along a lot. I think he's going to help us, and he's got his role for us on special teams. I think, all those young kids, I think we need them this year to help us in some sort of way, and Caden's one of those. We got between Manny, Caden, and Jordan, those kids are all very talented freshmen, and I think you'll see all three of them this year in some way. In some way, yes, sir.
Hey, Coach. You spoke a little bit about the type of person that you're looking for when you're recruiting, and also the committee approach. Is the committee approach that you guys kind of rolled with last year something that you think draws high school kids into you and into the system as a whole?
You talking about just playing all the guys?
What 300 tackle guys last season, is that something you think draws guys in?
Well, that part does. That part's nice. That part helps. But that's from a production standpoint. I think it helps a little, but I think it shows people that we're willing to, as a coach in a game situation, the guys you put on the field, you better trust with your life. Your life's on the line, right? If we don't do good, I got to go home and I don't get paid, right? I don't get to have a job, okay? So when I send the kid out there, like, I'm trusting my life in him, okay? So that's hard to do, all right? But I think last year with those three guys, I did trust them with my life, okay? And having them be able to rotate around like that, it gave me more trust in being able to do that. And I think, just having, I guess, if I'm a recruit, having a coach that is willing to do that, I think that helps because more than two guys are going to play.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. Bet online, where the game starts.